Good evening, everybody. BrianNeubert here from GoldenBlack.com, live in Mackey Arena here in West Lafayette, following Purdue's 73-70 loss to Ohio State. This is your GoldenBlack.com wrap video brought to you by our friends at the Purdue Club Hotel. Thank you to them, as always, for their support. I do normally set like a time limit in my head for these things. My range is 8 minutes. I very regularly go 20. This might go an hour tonight because I got a lot to talk about, and I don't want to go back outside. So Purdue loses 73-70. Very surprising outcome to me, anyway. I didn't expect Purdue to lose a home game this year, but at the same time, you know, there's kind of an undercurrent here that nobody wants to talk about because for some reason this is a controversial topic, but you know, these things catch up with you. The Big Ten is playing a lot of games in a short period of time. The travel now is coast to coast. I'm not saying it was the reason Purdue lost. I'm saying it might not have its legs tonight in that second half. This was a legs game, if you ask me. People have this weird disdain for the players on their teams. So when I bring this up, people immediately start screaming about excuses and, oh, they're young, and, oh, I had a sales meeting in L.A. last week and it went great and I came right back, and totally a different thing. Anyway, it just didn't look like Purdue had its legs in the second half. You know, it is kind of funny. Illinois went out to the Pacific Northwest, won both of its games. 2 games later, it lost at home to USC. Michigan went out, beat the 2 Los Angeles schools, came back 2 games later, lost at Minnesota. Stuff catches up to you, and maybe it caught up to Purdue, maybe it didn't, I don't know, but I'm looking at the underlying trending of this game, and I see a team that is shooting poorly, legs, got out-rebounded when it's not been getting out-rebounded, legs. Its point guard, who Purdue asks everything in the world of, had one of his worst games of the year, 3 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 3 three-point shooting, legs. Purdue was up 16 late in the first half, completely faded in the second half. This team that was number 1 in the Big Ten in defensive efficiency in Big Ten play had held people under 70 points 7 straight games, suddenly gives up 45% or 45 points in the second half to one of the Big Ten's lowest output offenses to this point. So there's some stuff here that adds up when you look at the theory that, you know, Purdue wore down a bit. I mean, look at it's not just the travel, guys. It's the one-day preps. It's the mental wear and tear. It's the fact that you don't get days off. Purdue doesn't have a day off until after the Michigan game, if that. I can't remember when their next day off is, but you don't get in the weight room. You don't get to do the things routine-wise you do to keep your body sharp. That's part of this. People don't know what goes into being a college basketball player at this level, but it gets all jacked up when you're on one coast 1 week and on another coast 6 days later, and you're playing 4 games in like 10 days. That's just the reality of it. You can say I'm making excuses when I'm not part of the team. I don't speak on Purdue's behalf. I'm just an objective observer and an analyst. I tell you what I see, what I think, what I see, and I saw a team in the second half that things caught up to. And you can believe it if you want. You can call it an excuse. You can scream and yell and tweet at me if you want. Fine, whatever. Nevertheless, nothing's changing the fact that Purdue lost 73-70 after having a 16-point lead in the final minute of the first half, the final seconds, really, of the first half. The other major contributing factor here to this is, you know, the three-point jump shot is the great equalizer in all of basketball. It just is. And Ohio State comes in as a 30% three-point shooting team, and I have said this before, after Texas A&M notably, is when you play a bad shooting team or a team that hasn't been shooting well, and I think there are 2 different things, and you're bad enough defensively to where you give them better shots than they're accustomed to taking, you are no longer playing a bad shooting team. You are playing a high major team whose players are at this level for a reason, who when you spoon feed them wide open threes, the highest quality look possible, and they shoot better than their percentage, that's on you. When you defend well enough to contest their shots and make a poorly shooting team think, that's the breaks of the games. And I think, Ohio State was probably, I don't want to say it's due because I don't think the universe balances out that way. You're either good at shooting or you're not good at shooting. But Ohio State hasn't been good at shooting. And they come in here and they make 11 threes on 23 tries. The game was decided by a lot of things. Ohio State scores 45 points in the second half. That's on Ohio State, but that's on Purdue too. But Ohio State made 4 3-pointers to beat clocks, to beat buzzers, counting the one in the final seconds by Bruce Thornton. That wasn't a shot clock. That was the end of the half. He made that shot with, I think, 2 seconds to go, roughly. And that started what ended up being a 20-2 Ohio State run to completely change this game. Purdue had been up 16. All of a sudden, they're down a couple possessions. Purdue fights, to its credit, fights to take back it just fades again. Purdue is not making threes. That's a big part of its offensive mix. As I said before, this wasn't Braden Smith's night. Purdue asked a lot of him offensively, defensively, and I can sit here and say that maybe that all caught up to him. But the reality of this game is Purdue got up 16 in the first half without him because he was in foul trouble, only played 10 minutes. Jakari Harris and C.J. Cox were both excellent. They were the driving force behind Purdue being up 16 in the first half. One would think 10 minutes on the bench would have refreshed Braden Smith. He was not himself tonight. And he is human. He is made up of flesh, blood, and bone. I've never cut him open, but I have seen him bleed many times. I can confirm he is an actual mortal, an actual human being, an actual vulnerable entity, a vulnerable being. And when he gets the ball right at the rim, misses. When Trey Kaufman-Renn gets the ball right at the rim a couple times in the second half, that's another stretch that really decided this game. Purdue got great looks at the basket, and they did not finish them. That speaks to legs. It just does. That's the reality of basketball. It speaks to legs. Purdue is getting what it wants offensively for the most part. And it's not cashing in at a level that you would have needed to hold Ohio State off tonight the way Ohio State was shooting the basketball. Hurried. Sean Stewart does not make a three-pointer in his career. They throw it into him just to get the ball in bounds. He makes a three. That's just that's kind of basketball, but that's the sort of stuff that decided this game. I think Ohio State won this game, but I also think Purdue faded after halftime. And we can sit here and discuss theories as to why. I'm sure the internet has opinions, but the team I saw in the second half here from Purdue tonight looked nothing like the team that had won 7 games in a row, the team that was defending as well as anyone in the country. They gave up 45 points in the second half. That's 5 fewer than they gave up to Washington in a whole game. That's just not normal, and that belied all of the trending that Purdue was exhibiting, and it speaks to something going on here beyond Ohio State just being better than them for the final 20 minutes. Give Ohio State a lot of credit. They did some things in the second half different, I think. I'll go back and watch tomorrow and try to detail that the best I can. But if Purdue just makes 2 more threes in this game, they shoot anywhere near their percentage. If they shoot anywhere near their percentage at the rim, this is a different game. Purdue gets 30 points off turnovers in this game and loses. That is the most bizarro stat I've seen in a long, long time. So it tells you Purdue is a good enough defensive team to do that. They had a great defensive first half, I thought, They forced turnovers when they needed to in the second half. But they just weren't consistent enough defensively. They just did not have the every possession oomph to them that they've had defensively here for the better part of a month and a half. And that's just hard to explain when, normally Mackey Arena is sort of the proverbial wind beneath their wings and kind of pulls them through stuff like that. But not tonight. So Ohio State, to their credit, were kind of due. I mean, they had lost 3 straight games by a combined 5 points. So I don't necessarily believe that things just even out like that, but they obviously didn't pack up when they were down 16 in the first half in a place that's really hard to win. So you got to give them a ton of credit here too for, being a big part of this. But I just thought something was off with Purdue, and nobody's going to come out and say that. That's the fun part of storylines and theories like this is it's just kind of when I say stuff like this, it's just me because nobody's ever going to say it in a press conference because they don't want to get skewered for making excuses. But Painter, I thought sort of kind of worded around it a little bit to where he was sort of giving an affirmative response without actually coming out and saying it. But they are asking a lot of these dudes these days. And the Big Ten has too many teams, too far apart. They're playing too many games. They're not going to play fewer games, and they're not going to do away with the Big Ten tournament so that they can spread the season out even more because money. It's just the way this is going to be. So there are going to be curveball outcomes like this periodically, as I have said many times before about this West Coast nonsense that's been forced on basketball. It is going to decide games, and it is ultimately going to decide championships to some extent. You might have seen a little nugget of an example here tonight because I thought a lot of stuff caught up with Purdue right around halftime of this game today, and a game they should have won regardless. 16 points in the first half on your home floor is a big number. And what it took from Ohio State to win this game is not something necessarily replicable. Again, the 4 buzzer beaters were the game. That is 12 points on which Purdue defended well enough. Now, I don't know about the 3 before the half. They might have made a mistake there. They probably did. But the other 3 is 9 points in a game decided by 3 points that Purdue just... It's not on Purdue to necessarily defend to the very end of the shot clock when guys are going to make prayers like that. Purdue's made more than its share. You saw that shot Fletcher Lawyer made at Minnesota, and you've seen Purdue make some really tough shots. C.J. Cox has made some shot clock beating shots, and it's just kind of the sort of thing that happens. But that decided the game. Of all the other stuff here, it all matters because this is a close game. Everything mattered. But the thing that decided the game was Ohio State making those prayers. And it almost goes back to the Andre Wesson transition 3 off the glass that cost Purdue a Big Ten championship. It's just the sort of thing that kind of happens every now and then. Happens for you, happens against you, whatever it may be. It happened against Purdue tonight, and for that reason, their 7-game winning streak is over. They've been dealt their 2nd Big Ten loss. It's a long season. There's lots of games ahead. Other people who are in contention for Big Ten championships are going to have games like this too. So I've said all year you got to win the league on the road because you're taking for granted that you're going to win your home games. This obviously is a setback in that regard. Purdue normally can be expected to win all of its home games, if not all but one home game. And if it's going to be an all but one home game year, this was it. So, Purdue's got big games to come. Purdue's still very much in its schedule is backloaded to all hell. Purdue still gets Michigan twice. Illinois already has 3 Big Ten losses. Oregon's already lost 3 home games. They're ostensibly out. So it's pretty open. Wisconsin, we'll see. I always forget them. They always sneak up on you. they're very sneaky, those Badgers. Never let a Badger sneak up on you, by the way, because that's just asking for trouble. Anyway, I guess I have to eventually go back outside here into the 0-degree weather. So that's what I got from Purdue's 73-70 loss to Ohio State here in Mackey Arena. So this is BrianNeubert from GoldandBlack.com. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And thank you once again to the Purdue Union Club Hotel for your support. As always, we appreciate it. We will talk to you again after Purdue plays Michigan Friday night right here in this arena. A big game for both of these teams. So thanks, everybody.